Welcome to the Female Finance Collective, where we encourage women to have open and honest conversations about all things money. In today's episode, we are excited to have a guest here with us. Welcome, Mara, the Joyful Hostess. We
Hi.
are excited to talk with her today about her business, her passions, and some tips for hosting while still staying conscious of our budgets. Mary Lee, do you want to get the conversation started for us?
Yes, absolutely. Mara, thank you so much for being here today. And we'd love to get started just by hearing a little bit about you and a little bit about your own financial journey. You have a financial background, which is really exciting for us to kind of have you here and talk about that. And you made a big shift in your life, and we'd love to hear about that too.
Sure. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about being here. Yeah, you're right. My journey has been unconventional, maybe to say the least. I myself was a financial planner for a number of years. I was in financial services for like 17 years. And while I loved it, and I really did love working with clients, it really was something that I wasn't as passionate about anymore. And I had always loved entertaining and being creative. And as you can appreciate in finances, there's not a whole lot of creativity going on. So when the pandemic came, like everybody's kind of had their stories about the pandemic. And for me, it was a real blessing that I could step back and really think about what I wanted the next phase of my life to look like. And I knew I wanted to do something far more creative than what I had been doing. So I sold my business and then focused on starting Joyful Hostess, which is a business that is dedicated to just helping women become more confident with their hosting skills.
How did you find that transition from having that career path to starting your own business?
Uh, it was scary. Can I swear? Well, I won't swear. But it was pretty scary. Because it'd been something I've been doing for so long, and then this had no roadmap, right? It was like, we're just gonna read all the things, do all the things, and try it. And I feel like it was the right thing at the right time for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. But there was a whole lot of learning going on. Like, there's nothing you can't Google or YouTube to figure out, like, behind the scenes tech stuff or whatever.
Yeah. And a whole lot of financial learning too, because managing your personal finances is very, very different from navigating business finances, cash flow, all of those things. So I echo your comments on it being tough to not have a roadmap and just every day is sort of uncertain.
Right. And, from a financial perspective, if we're being transparent about it too, you didn't have like your steady income to rely on anymore. I was building a business all over again. So
Mhm.
that was a little bit frightening. But it's all good. It all works out. And I feel like anything, right? When you're starting a business, as long as your heart is in the right place. And I had developed that work ethic as well. I mean, you can't just like sit around and expect things to happen. You really do have to like go out and make that happen. So, what I learned in the finance world about, sales and marketing, that kind of thing, I could also bring those skills with me to Joyful Hostess.
Tell
Are
us a
you
little bit about the Joyful Hostess. I would love to hear, like, it was obviously your passion, right? That you ended up going with.
Yeah. I grew up in a family that entertained a whole lot. Like our house was the house that, everybody hung out at. It was always the place where, friends would come or we celebrated everything, right? We celebrated the big holidays, but we also celebrated like little things like, oh, somebody got a new car. Come over and like see the new car and we'll have a barbecue, like it was like that kind of house. And, and then when I grew up and had a family of my own, I know I wanted to continue some of those traditions. However, what I will say is that I grew up with a mom and a grandma that when they hosted, it had to be perfect. Like I talked to other people about this and they're like, yeah, we had to clean the house for like 3 days and you were making everything from scratch because, you couldn't ask your guests to bring anything. Like it was a lot of work to host something. It was a lot of stress. So once I had kids, I realized, that style of hosting for me wasn't working. And when I started to kind of let go of the perfection a little bit and just focusing on being present with the people who were there. Because really, you guys, people aren't like looking at, oh, she got cheap flowers, not expensive flowers. Like they're not looking at that kind of stuff. They're just looking at the time you're spending together. So Joyful Hostess was really born of that. It started as an Instagram page just for fun. And yeah, and then became Joyful Hostess.
So
Um,
cool. I love that your name fits it perfectly. It sounds like you wanted to host joyfully, right? Not
Exactly.
perfectionistly and that ended up influencing, your whole brand and your whole finances and how you ran your new business. That's amazing.
Hmm. Hmm.
so you mentioned like keeping things about the connection and keeping that at the heart of people's events, right? That really is why I mean, for most of us, that's why we host. That's why we want people to come over because we want that connection. We want to feel that friendship, family, all of those things. So, do you have any tips for really keeping that connection, that element at the heart of it and not maybe getting too wrapped up in the rest of it?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think it's easy nowadays, right? I mean, if you look at my Pinterest board, it's like ridiculous, the decorations and stuff like that. The dream or the inspo and that kind of thing. And I will say that when I find myself getting caught up in like, I've readjusted the centerpiece a bunch of times, or like I'm stressing about what am I going to serve these people? Because I still have moments like that. I'm not, you know, immune to that perfection train that sometimes takes over. And I think really what I've learned to do is just stop for a second and think, Mara, are you stressing about this because it's going to lead to perfection or is it going to lead to connection? And 99% of the times, the, sorry, stuff,
You're good.
sorry, the stuff that you're like worried and stressing about is, I'm going to bet it's like not about the connection. It's about dumb stuff that nobody's actually going to care about.
Right.
So
I
I
think
think just taking a pause helps.
I love that advice. That advice works in a lot of things in life. But I think it's interesting to think about it in this perspective because a lot of times when we're getting ready to host, I do this myself, we are amped, right?
Mhm.
We're like stressing about everything. It's like you're running around. I feel like you can never get your house. Like, why does it take so much longer to clean your house when you know people are coming over, right? Like everything is like high. And
Yeah,
so I love the idea of just pausing. And you had that phrase, perfection over connection or connection over perfection. And I love that little catchphrase because it's easy to stop and remind yourself, hold on, right? I
right.
think that's great advice.
Yeah.
I love
And I
that.
think planning also helps. That goes a long way. Like, this
Mhm.
is not sexy. I'm going to say planning helps, but it really does so that you're not leaving everything to the night before.
Right.
And then, guests are showing up the door and I'm still trying to curl my hair or figure out what I'm going to wear or that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So planning really also helps because I feel like the more you plan, the less you get caught up in all those little silly details. You know what I'm saying? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
I do.
Yeah.
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 I've been like in my pajamas when people
Yeah.
rang the doorbell and I was like, why are they here 15 minutes early?
Yeah. Right?
I did not plan for 15 minutes early. And I was like, I should
Oh my
have.
God. That is the biggest pet peeve of mine. Like, honestly, Jen, like guests who show up early, can we like stop? You're not, no. The ideal time for you to arrive when you've been invited, unless it's like a wedding or something that has to start on time, but if I'm inviting you to dinner, the ideal time is 10 to 15 minutes after the time I told you to be there. That's ideal. That is the consensus. Even Emily Post Institute, which is like the foremost like expert in guest etiquette and etiquette, says 10 to 15 minutes. So,
I love it.
yeah.
I'm an advocate. I like that. It just feels stressful when people come early or even right on time. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
Lord, putting the last snack out.
that's right. That's right.
It's funny that you guys are saying that because I'm not a huge hostess, although when I do it, I really enjoy it, but I have a lot of like resistance. I'm worried it's going to cost too much money. I'm worried that no one's going to be able to come. And then I've put myself out there as a fool, and I just have all these like worries that stop me from
Mhm.
hosting and having events. Some of them money, some of them just other, no one showing up or am I whatever. So do you have any tips on like people like me who are even worried to even have the event because of money or because of, putting yourself out there? It's a big it's showing up, isn't it?
Sure.
Do you have some tips for
Sure.
that kind of thing?
Okay, well, I'm going to address it like two separate things. So I'm going to
Okay.
address the money piece because, let's face it, what we see out there in social media land and the stuff you're seeing on TV and magazines and whatever costs a lot of money. They make it seem like hosting, in order to do it right, you have to spend a lot of money, and that's like not true at all. So, I have a few ideas for kind of keeping costs down. One of them is you don't have to do a dinner. Like somehow hosting always has to be like a dinner. It doesn't have to be a dinner. It can actually be a breakfast. It can be a luncheon. It can just be tea and like cookies that you buy from like your favorite bakery. Like it can just be that. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. So when it comes to the food, you don't have to do a dinner. Be creative. Um, the second thing is like with your decorations. Again, you don't have to go over the top with decorations. You could even, I love things that are double duty. So let's say you get a cake, it's a birthday or you're celebrating something and you get this beautiful cake or you make this beautiful cake. There's no reason why you can't use that as the centerpiece,
Mhm.
right? Or flowers from the grocery store are just fine. You don't have to like go to a florist and have this whole big arrangement done. Even just sourcing stuff that's like outside for free. You can go cut branches or leaves or that kind of thing and create really beautiful centerpieces. So I think creativity will go a long way in making a beautiful event without having to spend a lot of money. So don't
Oh.
let that money thing hold you back. Like I said, it could be just cookies and tea,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
reason
I
for
love
people to get
that.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other piece around, what if nobody shows up? I totally get that. I mean, I get people reaching out that are like new to a city and don't really have the circle of friends to rely on, but they do want to do something. Um, the best advice I can give is that you have to go first. I mean, you have to be the one to take that step and invite somebody. And you don't necessarily have to have them to your home. Even if you just invite them to like a coffee shop or something, where you're like, let's just go grab a coffee and kind of do the warm up thing before you invite them to your house.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Did I answer your question okay?
Yes, you did. You did beautifully. I love a couple things that stood out to me were bringing nature inside because that's just who I am and love
Mhm.
that. Like it's as a centerpiece, like, and I did cupcakes for my book party and it was just my mom brought over a cupcake thing and I was like, that's gonna be it. That's the decoration, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. And then,
That's
yeah, just putting yourself out there. But I love that idea of like kind of making a intro
mhm,
outside of your home or that kind of thing. I
mhm.
actually love having people come into my house. I'm really proud of my house.
Yeah.
So it's interesting of that resistance showing up, but I love that idea of like meeting outside of the house as well and then inviting them in the house, I think I tell myself this narrative of people are too busy. They love you, but they can't come. Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
of course they can't if you don't ever put it on the calendar and invite them.
Right.
So,
And if they
right?
can't, that's okay too. I think we really have to like go easy on ourselves. Sometimes it's actually not about us, right? Like they're not coming because it has nothing to actually do with us. Maybe just, life is too busy for them, or maybe they have their own insecurities about going out. Like maybe they're more introverted people. Like, so I think we have to be careful about what we're telling ourselves about why people won't come over. I think the only thing we can control is, did we extend the invitation? And then from there, I mean, it's up to them.
I like that a lot. I think the same advice goes to business. Sometimes when you're trying to get clients, it's you can't control the outcome. So it's kind of doing your best. You make the invitation and what happens is what happens.
Yeah.
I know from looking at your social media, one of the things that you do is thrifting for things like decor. What are some ideas or kind of things to be on the lookout when thrift shopping for entertaining?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm gonna spill like all my secrets here. So when I do go thrifting, it's a great way to pick up goods that you can use when you're entertaining for not a lot of money. So I feel like there's always platters and plates, always. And you can find some like really beautiful ones. I tend to choose ones that are a little bit more um universal. Like so like just picking like just white or just crystal or something that's going to go with anything. So no matter what I'm doing. So platters and plates. Also, I don't know about where you are, but where I am, I feel like the linen section, like the tablecloths and placemats and napkins section, often get overlooked. Like I've picked up some really, really beautiful linen napkins, and they were like $1 a piece. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on that. Vases, any kind of decorating thing, and also silverware. Like you can find sometimes they'll like bundle the silverware, and you'll get like all this silverware for like $10 or whatever. So, um, and don't be afraid to mix and match. It doesn't have to be matchy matchy. Yeah.
I've seen I feel like I saw it on social media, but a great idea I saw was just having some containers where people can take leftovers. So thrifting for, different containers or
Hmm.
dishware, just so that you can um, give people some takeaways if you've overbought for your party. So I really like that idea too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And
That is a
even
fun idea.
if you're going somewhere, if you're going somewhere and you're bringing something like, I know it's only September now, but the holidays eventually will be here. And then to buy an inexpensive pretty plate and make some cupcakes or whatever and bring it to somebody and just leaving the plate behind, like
Yeah.
so that they can use it. Yeah.
Yeah, remembering to return stuff is so stressful. So I really like that idea because I've had plates and things like that that people brought to a party, and it's a year later, and I'm still staring at it.
It's true. It's true. And vintage glassware. I have a little problem with vintage glassware. I can't help myself. Because it's just so pretty and so beautiful. And I think it's kind of like the jewelry on the table, I feel like. So when you have like some unique glasses or some pretty glasses, that also goes a long way to making the table feel special where you didn't have to spend a lot of money. And your guests won't know that, you got them for 50 cents a piece or whatever.
I love the eclectic idea, right?
Yeah.
And then just the table too, being
Yeah.
that symbol of everyone coming together. That's a beautiful, just thinking about decorating that table in those simple ways from a thrift store. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. And I always say that it's not about what's on your table as much as it is who's around your table.
Hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that going back to your whole thing about remembering it's about the connection, that is such a good focus for people, right? And also just getting people to your table. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the key, right? Just taking the chance. These are all of the themes are tying together, right? Take a chance, just invite people. Like if that's what you want, if you want that connection and people gathered together, then um, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to start.
Yep.
Right? I think too, if somebody's never thrown a party before, had people over for a dinner, it sounds like you could use the dishes you already own, right?
Yeah.
And like maybe just put one fun thing on the table so it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm starting from scratch. I'm having a party. I have to go buy a whole new set of whatever, right? I like your idea of having that like one fun thing. Like maybe they go find some fun glasses or fun new placemats or just something that like makes it feel special so that it feel like you can kind of I love to eventize things as these
Mhm.
ladies know. So but to just kind of like eventize it as like your first dinner party, these are my fun new placemats or
Yeah.
my pretty new glasses. I think that's a really fun idea.
Yeah. I love that.
So I have a question about hosting around the holidays because, as you
Mhm.
said, they are rapidly approaching, right? They're going to be here so fast. So, here at Female Finance Collective, we're really about being thoughtful about not overspending. We talk about that all the time. But we also really emphasize not giving up the things that bring us joy. So finding that balance, which this everything you're sharing is perfect. It's perfect for us.
Mhm.
So for people who love to host around the holidays but are trying to be mindful of their budget, they don't want to overspend. Do you have suggestions for like holiday events where people should put their focus obviously on the connection, but if they really want to decorate and make it feel special, do you have some tips for making it feel like a special holiday event without focusing on the overspending piece?
Mhm. So I have a few ideas there. The holidays, it's really easy for things to get out of control. So again, this is not sexy, but having a plan and having a budget. And it could even just be as simple as saying, like, we're going to host a New Year's Eve party and I want to spend $100 doing it, $200, whatever you want to spend. And then think about those buckets like decorations, food, drink. I'm blanking on another category, but decorations, food, drink, let's say. And then sort of allocate, like, I know I want to spend more money on the food because I want that to kind of be the showpiece and less on the decorations. And then that at least gives you kind of a roadmap to start with, and you're not going to get sidetracked seeing like pretty decorations when you're thinking like, oh, remember I was going to do something special with the food instead. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good way to kind of visually see where your dollars are going for your party. So in that respect, you can still splurge on those things that are important to you, because I'm willing to bet, Jen, that how I would spend $200 or $500 on a party would be different than how you're going to spend it,
Mhm.
right? Because everybody has different priorities.
Right.
So that would be one. And the second thing is with the holidays, when it comes to decorating in particular for a party, I tend to focus on one or two key areas for what's going to be decorated. So maybe it's the holiday table and my holiday bar, and focus my time and energy and money on making those look really spectacular and not worry about the rest. So that's also another way that you can kind of allocate some dollars where you think it would have the most impact or where you want to spend money and still have some fun.
That's a great tip because I do think people feel compelled to like decorate the entire house. Like I'm having a themed event, the entire house needs to look like the themed event. And that I think is where we can easily get carried away in
Yeah.
our spending because we're all over the place, right?
And
We're just
visually
like,
it has just a bigger impact if you spend more time and energy and money on like the table, right? That's actually more memorable than you doing like little bits on the mantle, and I want to put a little bit in the bathroom, a little bit in the entryway, and a little
yeah.
bit here and a little bit there. You're gonna have definitely more wow factor. Like think about a table that's just got a whole bunch of candles on it. How impactful that looks compared to candles sort of scattered here and there.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I love that. It's giving me visuals all around of all
And
the
you could get
parties
those at
I've
the thrift
right.
store. You could get your candles
Exactly.
at the thrift store so easily and
Exactly.
half burnt, so they're not all brand new, right?
You could totally do that. You could totally do that. And then, just bring in some greenery. Don't let those candles burn down too low, but yeah. And then
Yeah.
you're done. That's it for your decorating, and it looks beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to turn the lights down. Tell my
Mhm.
husband, I'm like, let's keep it dark and moody. It'll feel intentional. And then no one will notice we didn't dust the bookshelf or whatever. And then our candles will look really glowy and fancier than they really are.
So
But
true.
don't you think, I love that you're saying that, because don't you think that it's a whole different vibe when you've turned the lights lower with candles and you're sitting around a table with people? I feel like people linger at the table longer. Like conversations just seem to flow easier. I don't
Yeah.
know. I really think, and I think that's why, like, think about restaurants that are like fancy and everybody wants to, like, it's because of the atmosphere, right?
Yep.
So dim lighting, candles,
Yeah.
same thing.
That
Create
is,
a vibe. That's what I
yeah,
say.
that is so true. Mara, thank you so much for all these really, really helpful, entertaining tips. I'm scared to entertain, and it's always a really stressful situation for me. So I really appreciate it. And you have such lovely binge-worthy content. So tell us how best to connect with you.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. Best probably is Instagram and YouTube. So YouTube channel has lots of like content to help make hosting easy, recipes and cocktails and what to do when guests show up too early and guests show up too late. So YouTube is like quite a resource, but Instagram is kind of where, we get to have a little bit more fun, and I still share good stuff on there too, for sure, but you get to see a little bit more of the less perfection personality, let's say.
Yeah, I've checked out your videos, and they're fabulous and so helpful to ease the entertaining stress and stay on budget. Thank you so much for listening today, and please be sure to like and follow our podcast. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Female Finance Collective. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. And we also like to have guests on our show. So if you're interested in that, send us a message, and we look forward to speaking with you next time.